Late 80s, during the AIDS epidemic, the National AIDS Quilt was created as a living memorial to the lives lost. Now a local woman wants to create a similar tribute to recognize the victims, survivors, and essential workers of the COVID-19 pandemic. WMAR2 News' Megan Knight has this story.
Sharon was a caregiver to families and ended up passing from COVID.
She knows their names and their stories.
Russell Livingston, his panel tells it all. He's a sports fan. This is Sarah King. She was a nursery school director, but here her children created the pictures of her.
Yet the only person from this quilt who Sandy Nagel really knew on a personal level was her dear friend, Susan Mazer.
She loved to laugh, and we had lots of laughs.
Susan died of COVID last year. Her death left a big hole in Sandy's heart, and it sparked an idea of how to memorialize Susan and all who have been impacted by this virus.
Many of the people in the beginning died in hospitals alone, and families didn't get to say a fitting farewell. I created the quilt so that people they're actually physically saying their goodbyes.
The National COVID-19 Quilt is modeled after the National AIDS Quilt from the late 80s. Sandy wants to collect 1,920 panels from all 50 states, the same number of the original AIDS quilt.
The quilt is a living history. It's a living history of the people.
The quilt is not just for those who have died of COVID. It also honors the survivors, like Michael Green, one of the first in Maryland to get the virus. It'll also pay tribute to all of the essential workers.
Each one of these has a story.
And Sandy commits each story to memory as these panels come in, determined to not let them become just another number or statistic.
People go to the quilt and they see their loved one. What they instinctively do is they bend down and touch it. It's like touching a grave marker. It tells a story of somebody who passed, and this is their family's memorial to them.
And Sandy hopes to lay the quilt panels on the National Mall in D.C. in the spring of next year. We've posted information at WMAR2news.com about how to send a panel to be added to the National COVID-19 Quilt.